Story 1. I never slept well when there was a storm. Fine, I'll say this one you should know. Got my coffee now to Washington. S at that clam shack at Scarborough with family was 10 years old. We're outside at a spool table just like the photo on the way up here that you hung up. Grandpa was across me, petting the twins. Brown hair, happy crow's feet. Arms had cancer scabs. Twins, Mark and Jean, were 5 years old, wearing Gap outfits like they did on that boat. Pop and Mom were at the right and left of me, matching white shirts and black shorts. Mom wore that straw hat, holding down her brown hair, wore large black sunglasses to block us and the sun out. Pop adjusted his cap to itch his head and hide. His bald spot ruining his haircut was light blonde, changed with the season, bent the brim, trying to do the same. Twins guzzled chocolate milk. Table got fries with salt and vinegar. Got a Connecticut roll somehow, seasoned it with butter. Took a bite. Pop drenched the thing with butter. Said you can't even get fat right. Spat it out on the table after another bite. Nearly barfed. Mark called me fat from under Grandpa's hand. Jean glared. Went to the beach next to the shack. Murder of seagulls wandering and flying. Teens trying to kill them with pebbles. Sky was overcast. Cold, Mom said, to get rocks and shoo me away. Had long, pale arms, blue nails, was still in college then. Headed left, remembered this beach, were big boulders getting eroded by waves. Eagles nested in the cliffside. Kent was helping me. Nice guy. Was a half-black kid in his red swim trunks and black tack. We'd go this place every summer as kids. Wasn't it Scarborough, but it was here. Think it was Briggs Beach. Helped me with getting rocks. Said I let Pop yank my chain. Couldn't argue, but his family got back with Kent. Pop stabbed the sand with the umbrella stake. Beat Kent up with a beach chair that was folded up. Told me to put the rocks in the hole around the umbrella stake. I poured them in. Screamed at me. Can't you do anything? As you're told, Mom opened the green and white umbrella, unfolded the chair Dad beat with Kent, sat down, grabbed cigarettes, took out a wine bottle, took a drag, opened the bottle with her back teeth, spit out the cork, poured into a solo cup, nested the bottle into the sand, put her thumb around the bottle neck with the lit cigarette in her fingers, took out a Connecticut roll, and said not you, Mom. Quit staring at me. Twins stole the shade, were in bathing suits. Mark said get out, you're too fat. John S. Stared at me, I left. Sky got darker, caught up with Grandpa, was shin deep in water, hand in his pocket. Seagulls perched on his shoulders, fed them fries. Said water's warm. It's September. Went in the water with him, looked at the nautical horizon. Said there's a fishing pole, should grab it. Keep you busy with me. Wine picked up. Umbrella got carried by a gust of wind and tumbled us. I lugged tea out of the ocean to Mom, was in her chair, reading some magazine. Letters didn't make sense. My mother was on the cover in her green summer dress. Sweet potato pie on the counter was my favorite photo from her wake. Said, you ever think have you brought through and sister, or just yourself? Made myself useful, all I could do. Set the umbrella back up. Twins got back in the shade, didn't want to be in it, but kicked me out anyway. Took the fishing pole that was in a bag Pop carried. John said, you're always dead weight. Mark spat on my foot and called me fat. Ocean, salt mixed in the air with trash and cigarette smoke. Sunlight dimmed. Grandpa was out there looking. Called to him, run over, was happy to see me. Asked him should we go to the shore, said get us Klondike bars. I'll get us dinner, took the fishing pole, grabbed a worm from his pocket and cast out the line. Went to the basket at the umbrella, and then there was nothing but jars of pills, condoms, and sunscreen. Twins had the Klondike bars, 3 each, told them that was for everyone, and they stared back at me. Mark called me fat again and pointed at my gray shirt, soaked in sweat and salt water draping my chunky stomach. Pop said, quit your bitching. Look to the shoreline to tell Grandpa. Gone. Ask Mum where's Gramp. Hey, said John am already. Ran to the ocean thinking it was advice. Fishing pole swam with the waves. Sky got darker like nightfall. At noon, got out the water. Mum, Mark, and John were gone. Pop sat staring at me. Rilla still in the ground. Bent to an angle now. Towels scattered on the sand. Sprinted after to get them. Wrapped the fishing pole in one. Pop sat onto towels. Asked him where. Gee, they go. Since when do you care? Asked me back. Blank face. Said we need to find them. Since when do you care? Asked again. Walk the beach. Listini. NG to the waves. Seagulls. Sand beneath our feet getting kicked and pushed, the beach weeds and bushes rustling from the wind, kept an ear out for them. Pop said, knew I hated you for a reason. Rain fell, kept walking, sand was tough, muddy, legs wore out. Time we reached a sandbar, was the man you see now. Pop found a shack of driftwood. Silently agreed to go there with him. Pop looked at me and the fishing pole, walked past, stood still, said to him, let's sit a bit. Storm's not letting up, maybe they'll run in here. Said like he said a long time back, been dead 8 years and you act like it was yesterday. With a moonlit smile, saw Grandpa in the hospital bed back of the shack behind Pop. Soul escaped his yellow, scabbed body from his mouth. Got up, rested the fishing pole on his lap, turned to Pop, said let's keep looking. Said like he said, little while back, wasn't a chance, was a choice, you failed. Failed deliberately. Mark and Jean are gone. You act like God took them yesterday, but you did that 20 years ago. Stole them in front. Emmy got that drunk teenager to lie for you. Hannah died from a broken heart. You did all that. That was you. What would your real mother say? Said, let's keep looking. Didn't punch him like at our wedding. Torrent came. Saw the day sailor, dredged up with seaweed on it. Port waged into the beach. Twins were there. BL, oated, gray, legs tied on rope, like at the coroner's office. Now draped over starboard, instructor was there with his head under his forearm at the stern, vomiting. Mum flushed her face in sand, jar of Vicodin and NyQuil at her left thigh, a Woodbridge. Chardonnay bottle in her right hand, small bottle of formaldehyde scattered away from it. A stillborn under her legs, book of baby names under her chest. Tea. Like when I got up for school, blood washed away. Murder of seagulls, sat and watched. Said I'm sorry, I tried to get them out. Boating instructor did tea. Oh, it was during a storm. I'm sorry. Pop's face didn't move from that smile. He wrestled me down to the sand by my throat, staked me down with some driftwood. Didn't try to kick him off, I still desert. Vet it, no matter what witnesses said. Watch the rain fall. Pop grabbed a smooth white rock. Was happy with me for once. Smashed my head in. Then I woke up to you wrestling me down, slapping my F. Ace, it's like you said. Dreams are just that. Story 2, the storm that took my voice. One more day. Just one more day. Come on, you can do it, you can survive it. That's W. And I tell myself, over and over, like a broken mantra scraping the inside of my brain. It's hard, God, it's hard, but it can't rain all the time, right? That line spins in my head like it's trying to hold me together. I love that quote. I love that movie, The Crow. The rain, the grief, the hope crawling out of the wreckage. Some days I feel like I'm all three at once. Today I have a very important appointment, and I wake up counting my steps as if the numbers could anchor me to a reality that's already slipping. I'm also counting the seconds I have left before my mind goes quiet. Before the voice that has spoken inside me 24/7 is forced into silence. The sky was dark and macabre, swollen with something unsaid. It didn't just look ominous. It looked personal, like the heaven W, air mirroring the slow funeral of my own thoughts, a sky performing a goodbye for me. And then, without warning, as if the gods of chaos had been watching me, waiting for me, a storm tore through the world around me. Not just the weather, but an intrusion, a violent presence invading the space my body still pretends to inhabit. I need to be on time for my appointment at Vordingborg Hospital. Even if the storm tries to stop me, I will get there, the storm above me and the storm inside me. One crashing down from the sky, the other hunting me from the back of my mind. Today I have to fight both of them, Mother Nature and the nature of my own psyche. I get into my Cadillac, turn on the radio, trying to minimize the sound of both storms, the one outside and the one knowing inside my sanity. The radio crackles, and then Cruising Down the River by Russ Morgan begins to play. Just the two of us together. We'll plan a honeymoon. Of course, just the storm and me, and here we are, on our way to our own twisted honeymoon, the perfect destination where a storm and a human like me can finally relax, enjoy themselves together. The radio cuts of mid-song, the music dies, swallowed by static, and then an announcement replaces it, flat, cheerful, inhuman. The government is pleased to announce the implementation of the old mental sanitary regulations. We extend our gratitude to all citizens who have volunteered for treatment. Your cooperation brings true harmony to our system. Harmony, of course, that's what they call it. I park my car, and on my way to the hospital, entranced, the wind hits me hard, violent, desperate. The storm is trying to push me back, to stop me from reaching my destination, as if had waited until today to finally tear the sky open. It feels almost personal, like the storm has no intention of enjoying a honeymoon in my arms after all. I reach the door. I made it. The doctor is already waiting for me in the reception hall, smiling with that clinical emptiness they all have. Welcome, he says, and thank you for volunteering to help us build a better society, a more symmetric society. Come, follow me. I walk. With every step I take, a thunderclap hits harder and harder, like an angry lover throwing a final tantrum. A lover who doesn't want this relationship to continue anymore. I step into a huge white room, too white, too hermetic, too cold. A thunderstrike hits the roof so violently, sounds like the storm is trying to split the hospital in two. Breathe, sit down, the sun will come soon, I tell myself, though I don't believe it. The doctor is talking, too fast, too much, his words flooding the room, but none of them react. Me, I only catch the last sentence. Enjoy the process. Miss, it can't rain all the time. I look up at the ceiling. I hear the wind screaming against the windows. Get out. Get out. Now the doctor says 1.2, 3, and something clicks. In the room, in my brain, the storm the wind the world, click, everything is gone. Good morning, citizens. After yesterday's storm, Central Atmosphere Control reports a 0.4% increase in national clarity. The sun is shining today, engineered for your emotional equilibrium. Please remember, stability is a privilege. Static hums like a mechanical breath. The Ministry of Symmetry would like to address ongoing rumors regarding yesterday's atmospheric disturbance. The storm was not an omen, not a malfunction. It was scheduled purification event. Any interpretation suggesting rebellion, divine intervention, or emotional resonance has been classified as unauthorized imagination. Unauthorized imagination is harmful. Harmony requires obedience. Static long sound. We are also delighted to announce that 78% of volunteers in our reinsertion centers have reported elevated satisfaction levels. This marks a significant rise in collective compliance. Volunteers are reminded that resistance is a temporary psychological glitch and should be ignored until it dissolves the system. The NK asks you for your cooperation in dissolving yourself for the greater good. For the remaining 22% who have not yet reached optimal happiness, do not worry. Your minds are adapting. Your silence is progress, your emptiness is efficiency. Time for some tunes before more news. It Can't Rain All the Time by Jane Siberry. We are back. Today national mantra is as follows: the storm is gone, the doubt is gone, the self is gone, symmetry remains. Thank you for participating in the preservation of our harmonious society. Remember, the sun is shining, a day, because you no longer interfere with it. Story 3, White Haze. Get up. It's time to get up. We must leave now, Vanny. Where are we going? I whispered back to the soft voice. It beckoned me into the white haze that appeared before me. I looked for it, the person calling my name. I saw nothing but a light drizzle of white, almost like snow. My eyes started to hurt and stung from salty tears that began to form. I took on an anxious nature, because I could not only find the serenading voice that felt so familiar, but I also felt deeply troubled listening to its appeal. Please tell me who you are. My voice did not sound like mine. This voice has not belonged to me since I grew into an adult. My pulse quickened as the dream street retched on, and I felt every second tick by. The air was still as if the wind started to blow. The haze would consume whatever stood in the middle of it, or in its way. Presently, standing in the middle of it was me, and in the distance, somewhere, a man. His soft whispers drew me in so much that his face, being unbeknownst to me, did not matter. I simply started walking without feeling any steps. I was taking There was no sound to my steps, no wind pressing against my small, frigid body, just my voice and his calling to me. My body had finally reached the area of the voice. I looked around, tears streaming gently down my face, ready for the intruder of my dreams to make his nightly appearance. What did his embrace feel like? Why was this stranger here? My tears were reminders that the feeling in my soul was not entirely the result of something ethereal, but also of something dark, something vile. "Here I am," he said from behind. I turned quickly, ready to catch the intruder. Time froze. The appearance before me was not fully man, but a tall, dark figure. The hue it emitted was that of rotten wood. He fooled me with the beautiful haze that covered the rest of my mind. He hid behind the purity of white. The dreadful odor seeping from his grotesque hanging jaw made my body convulse. I should have listened to my soul. I should have denounced the voice. From the beginning, looking into the soulless eyes of it quickened my heart. It reached out its decrepit hand. "Please, get up. We must go. I will not hurt you. I shall help you." The voice was still sweet, but not as sweet as the voice before it. It pointed to the purity was previously hiding in, urging me to follow it into its hideout. I looked at my feet, daring to grab his gnarled hand and follow it into what seemed so peaceful and serene, something that I have only ever wanted for my life. I saw an abyss below me, and I was floating above it. If I did not take this monster's hand, would I fall into this abyss? For certain. I looked at him, and a crooked smile formed above me. I knew better. I shall no longer be a fool, for I am no longer a child. I bundled my fingers together and scowled at him. Still, my breathing was rapid. Still my body tightened, and still I had such an unholy feeling growing inside me. It knew my thoughts, and then its smile faded. The haze turned gray around him, but the place he was trying to lure me remained white. He grew bigger. His mouth opened wider, and his eyes fixed my chest. I heaved in, but it felt as if no air filled my lungs. I only knew I was breathing because of my rapidly rising chest. He took one step closer and shouted, his finger now pointing to my chest, trying to touch it. "Get you p." The voice was booming. Fear struck me. I started to tremble and uncontrollably sob. I was certain my lungs would never recover from such a cry. My wailing was loud, and anyone who might have heard me would have been deeply disturbed by the guttural noises pouring out of my soul. I started my descent down the abyss where its betraying voice penetrated and echoed. I could see the white and gray hue disappearing as I furthered into my fall. It became bitterly cold, and my screams formed a stream of white air as I went down, and further down. My fall was in a motion where every second could be felt as if they were hours now, and the sickness to my stomach was not from the fall itself, but from my impending doom, where my most inner body would be revealed once I reached. The bottom of what I now understood was a tunnel that kept narrowing. The walls closed in increasingly. I could vaguely see the walls of the tunnel. My tears would collide with the smooth walls, and I would see a twinkle of my dread as they hit. Then I stopped. No, not stopped. Time had slowed down even further. My screams were no longer, and yet my mouth and body were still aching from the strength of my lungs and throat letting out. Nose, I felt it. That thing was here. I stared up at part of the black tunnel, a gaping hole dripping with a thick red substance, opened. The reddish hue burned my skin, the light that poured from the hole was like shards stabbing any shred of joy, peace, and love I once had within my heart. It was replaced with nothing but fear and dread. He revealed himself, slithered out the demon, preparing itself to leap into the tunnel to claim me. Up, it boomed before leaping, a sudden gust of cold, crippling wind made me plummet faster down the tunnel. Time had started again, but this time it made every hour feel like a second. Falling above me was the figure, smiling, and blood dripping from his mouth. My tears turned to ice once they detached from my eyes into the unforgiving wind that spiraled me down with pain. I never thought that a human could endure such a whine. The snarling noise coming from his nose was fast, and air pushed out of what only could be deciphered as nostrils. The frigid air was making one thing very clear. He was hungry, not hungry for my flesh, hungry for my allegiance, for my heart. My descent started again with his ravenous mouth closing in on my falling body. I turned my body quickly over to see how much more of the fall I had, frightened by the demon itself, still sobbing from the deepest part of my body. Then, in a split second, the bottom thump. My eyes opened and I sat up, drenched in sweat. My bed was hot, as if someone had poured boiling water on me while I slumbered. My nose sniffled at the cold air surrounding me, a bitter reminder of the demon that chased me within my dreams. My anxious nature did not subside when I got up and walked my open bedroom window. How is this possible? I cannot open my one-bedroom window. My hair felt disheveled, and my face and body felt as if I had aged 10 years. I looked at my hands and bowed. Why, realizing I was 23 years old again, my thin, long cotton nightgown protected me from nothing. I finally paid attention to the outside scenery before me when a bitter chill of wind rested upon my face and body, only to see white flakes drizzle from the white sky. I could not see far in the distance of the snow, but what I did see, creeping behind a white hazelwood tree, was the demon. I could hear the horses' complaints of the cold from their stables. Were they complaining of the snow or the demon? Did they feel my agony? The demon waved at me while smiling that crooked smile. I turned my attention to the other dead trees, watching the snow fall off of the branches onto the ground. I watched the snow fall onto the carriage that was parked under the building with cobblestone visible because of the roof's protection. I blinked and looked back at the white hazelwood tree. He was gone. Of course he was gone. It was a nightmare, a dreamed jump, Vanny. No, a fall like that would kill me. I cannot always listen to my mind. It plays tricks on me. My body started to shake again. I could be free. I could confront that entity and live my life. I could know. What else was out there? You look under the weather. Dear, are you feeling well? The sweet, soft voice returned. This time I recognized it. The face quickly appeared and pushed me aside, closing the window and locking it with the plethora of keys from the chain on his hips. Yes, I must have caught a cold, Vincent. I turned to face my husband with nothing but numbness in my. Yes, did you leave the window open? Yes, I wanted to make sure you didn't have any thoughts about going out there, out into that cold, unforgiving world. You would not survive there. There is absolutely nothing out there for you. Everything you need is right here with me. He smiled, but his eyes remained fixed on the outside. He then turned to me with softened eyes, cusped my face, and stared into my soul with deepness. He softly tilted my head and kissed my neck. I should be all you need. You are all I need. You know I would never want you to feel this way, but for your safety I need you to be weak, too weak to get up, too weak to leave, too weak to make it far. So if you ever do try to get up and leave, I could easily take you back home, where you belong. Dear, trust me, you will not get far. It will only be pain and suffering for you if you leave me. His voice was almost serenading, as if everything was okay. And this is simply the way life should be for us. I nay, W better than to protest. He gently took my hand and guided me to my designated chair within the room. How handsome he was, how beautiful, and how caring he seemed. He could easily fool anyone with his charms. He sat me down smiling with pearly whites, his breath smelling of fresh spearmint. The room was bare and cold. He looked so appealing to look at compared to it, nothing but a bed and my sea. Hair, my body ached, the wooden floors were so cold. I shook. He took off his coat and covered me in it. The thought of freedom being so close, and I could not find it within me to jump though hot made my eyes well with water salty as the sea. Vincent took the soaked sheets from the bed and walked out of the room with them, locking the door behind him. My sobs became uncontrollable. How badly I want to be free. How could fear take such an opportunity from me? I heard heavy footsteps running through the house, coming closer to my room. Vincent burst through the door with new sheets and dropped them on the floor. He closed the door and locked it behind him. Don't cry, you will be well. I will take care of you, darling, my darling Vanny. Vinny loves you very much. Do not let your mind play tricks on you. We both know how badly it affects you. He wiped the tears from my eyes as one tear fell down his. False empathy. I stopped sobbing and just staring at a man I never thought I would grow to despise. He got up and mumbled to himself while wiping tears from his eyes. He glanced at me occasionally to give me a faint smile with reassuring eyes, then continued making the bed with extra sheets and blankets. Finally, he was done with the sheets and walked over to me. He gently scooped me out of the chair, and his eyes did not part from mine. He, on the floor next to the bed, what I mistakenly thought was a pillowcase, was a new night slip for me to wear. He changed me into it, laid me down under the sheets, and smoothed my hair back. His eyes were cold, like the snow falling so peacefully outside. I looked into his eyes, knowing what was coming next. You shall never leave from here, nor from me. He hissed story. For the great divorce the sky wept. Hard, I couldn't feel anyone individual droplet, for it was like one giant slab of water gushing from the clouds, as if God had turned on the heavenly flood waters from the time of Noah just to see what the puny humans would do. Would they scatter and build the underground shelters or build a large seafaring ship? Fuck. I had never stood in a torrent of cloud tears this in. Tense in my life, what was I doing standing in front of my old house, spying on my ex-wife and our children? I'm nuts. I have to be absolutely nuts. There's something cold, metallic in my hand. Why am I holding a cold, metallic object in my hand in the middle of a raging storm replete with thunder and lightning? I'm practically standing in a goddamn pool of filthy, muddy rainwater. one streak of God Almighty's magical electricity, and I'm toast. Literal fucking toast. I'll be fried like that one guy from Tim Burton's Batman when the Joker electrocutes some asshole with a funny palm buzzer as I tighten my grip on the metallic object that I seem to be holding in my hand. God knows why. I look to see what it is that I am gripping ever so tightly. Oh, fuck. It's a G. And shit. It's happening all over again, like that time in Guam, when I woke up in some bitch's apartment holding a knife to her husband's throat. Okay, this is bad. This is really bad. I can feel the muscles, the tendons, the sinews flexing and pulsing. I can almost hear the synapses in my brain firing off all the necessary command codes to raise the arm with the gun and shoot. And there's absolutely nothing I can do to stop it. Why, oh God, why, fuck. My eyes narrow as they look down the barrel, through to the target. But who's the target? I don't recognize. See him? Is he her lover? And what the bloody hell does it matter? We're divorced. She can do whatever the hell she wants. I shouldn't give a damn, but you do, John. My head snaps up, and I pivot on the heel of my right foot in one fluid motion. My aim shifts from my ex-wife's Dasha bag lover to whoever the fuck is now standing in front of me. My thumb cocks back the hammer, and my index finger readies itself to pull the trigger at the first sign of a threat. Who the fuck are you? Are you intending to shoot me as well, John? My mind seemed to lines this prospect over, chewing on the idea for a while as if it hadn't thought that. That might be an option. It depends. Depends on what, John? Shit. What would it depend on, I suppose? Any number of factors. But what the hell do I know? I'm not even a violent person. The irony doesn't dawn on me. I don't know. It just depends. Well, why don't you put that gun down while you have a thinkaroo about it? Yes. I thought yes, but neither my mind nor my body seemed to give a fuck about what I thought would be reasonable. I can't. What do you mean you can't, son? I don't know. I just can't. The expression on the stranger's face seemed to soften, but also there was concern in his eyes, but not for himself. All right, the stranger said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. How about this? You just stay where you are, and I'll take this little old gun right gentle-like from your hand. Think you can let me do that? My mind whirred and turned like a barrel of butter being churned by one of those weird Amish people, I suppose. Good. And before I even realized it, the gun was no longer in the grip of my now cold, sweaty hand. My fingers heat apart and my arm still raised to eye level. There. That's much better. Now, why don't we sit down for a cup of coffee? The nearest coffee shop is 20 miles from here, and I don't drive. Do you drive, mister? Sorry, I didn't catch your name. The stranger smiled a placating smile and raised his right hand to meet mine, which was still outstretched as if it still intended to do someone harm. Gun or no gun, call me Pa. Like short for Paul? No, like short for Pa. Ha, funny, fine. You don't want to tell me your name. That's just fine, the strong. I took my hand in his, and that's when everything faded, like that moment when you wake up from a dream or, in my case, a nightmare, and try so hard to remember even just one detail of your dreamy existence. but try as you might, you just can't. My muscles began to relax. I couldn't even feel them anymore. My vision began to blur. The stranger was still smiling, still holding my hand. The strangest part, though, as that I could no longer feel the torrential downpour of rain. I couldn't feel anything, actually. Holy shit, fuck. Am I dead? You're not dead. What the fuck are you in? My head? I'm in everyone's head. Sometimes I'm even in their hearts. That last statement hit me like a gut punch by a skilled MMA fighter in one last-ditch effort to take out their opponent. Who are you? Whoever you need me to be. Listen, I don't have much time, so I'll cut to the chase, friend. I'm here to help you find a way out. You've been looking for it your whole life, Hitch is why you find yourself in little sitches such as this. You're looking for the big exit sign, and I'm here to give it to ya. No questions, no need to return the favor. Consider this an unconditional gift. What'd you say, partner? My hapless brain took a moment to think about this. It seemed to consider the angle and all the possibilities. Images began to emerge in my mind's eye of all the times I found myself in this exact predicament, or all the times I watched life pass by behind the slotted view of a jail cell. And then, one day this guy shows up at this moment in my story as I'm about to murder some douche I've never met and don't give two fucks about. Why? Why now? Why me out of all the sad, sorry fucks in this bleak world? Why me? Why not you? I snapped from my reverie, startled once again by this man's Jedi mind trick. Who are you? I'm here to rescue you. Does it matter who's here to save you? I suppose not, but it did matter, and he fucking knew it. I don't know how I knew that he knew that I knew, but it fucking mattered. Are you some alien or some shit? Some shit, yes, alien, perhaps to a conspiracy theorist. Okay, whatever. How do you plan to rescue me? That's the question. Ain't it? You're gonna work for me. I could feel my eyes squint in consternation as I absorbed the ludicrous notion. Thanks, pal. Whatever. I don't work for anyone but yourself. Yes, I know. Think of it like this. Work for me or die. Your choice, but I warn you, there's only one right answer. At this, I panicked and wished the guy, whoever he was, would disappear like everything else had. I know when I've been had, deal. All right. Did you just do an impression of? Yeah, I suppose I did. Now, I'll need you to just sign this here contract. Don't bother reading the fine print. You wouldn't understand it anyway. Bunch of legal jargon, you understand. I felt a sharp prickling pain in the tip of my right index finger. I put said finger in line with my eyes only to see a single crimsoned droplet poised to drip onto the awaiting piece of parchment that the stranger had extended towards me, presumably the contract. Sign here, please. My index finger hovered over the line at the bottom of the contract. The droplet of blood swelled before it dropped down onto the line next to the X. That'll do just fine. John, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. I watched, disbelieving, as the stranger's mouth upturned into a crooked, toothy smile. His eyes glowed now a sinister blaze red, his teeth sharp like a wolf's fangs. You're the devil. I really hate labels. But did you neck I was God, PSSH, please. I divorced him a long time ago. Perhaps you've heard. We're no longer on speaking terms right then. You're to report to work first thing in the morning. In the meantime, get some sleep, old chum. And once again I was standing in front of the window of my old house, arm outstretched, gun in hand, hammer cocked, and bloody finger on the trigger. So it had happened, my muscles tense once more. He had lied, Pa had lied about rescuing me. He's gonna use me like he always has. The muscles in my finger tense. My finger curls in, pulling the trigger. The rain is still pelting at him. Why body imploring me to submit. Crack, everything falls, silent, and all I can feel is the numbness of sleep overtaking me. Fuck. Story 5. The gift of icy terror. The sea was a beast. That night, vast and merciless, waves rose like mountains, crashing against the longship Stormfang with a fury that threatened to grind it into splinters. The men bent to their oars, muscles straining, faces ghost pale in the lightning's glare. Thor's beard, the sea itself wants us dead. Herrick bellowed, voice swallowed by the storm, his knuckles whitened, eyes wide wet. Terror, row, Joran roared from the prow, hair whipping like a banner of defiance. The gods test us. Better to drown than crawl. Thunder split the sky, rain lashed their faces, and the she-age. IP lurched sideways, Leaf, the youngest, nearly pitched into the black maw of the sea. He clung to the rail, teeth chattering. Chieftain, he cried, we'll be dashed against the rocks. Joran's eyes blazed. Then let the rocks remember our names. Hours bled away in chaos until, at last, the storm relented. Dawn crept across the horizon, pale and cold, but the sight that greeted them was no homecoming. They had been cast into a fjord none recognized, jagged peaks and endless ice. A glacier loomed ahead, its face shimmering with balefire. The air was colder than death, silence heavier. As a shroud, Leaf whispered, do you see it? The eyes, it glows. Indeed, faint light flickered beneath the frozen wall, as though something alive pulsed within. The crew of the Stormfang made landfall, dragging the boat onto shore to avoid its damage against the jagged rocks. Joran stepped forward, boots crunching frost. Cursed or blessed, we'll see the gods-eyed trees. Yours where cowards fear to tread. The men exchange uneasy glances. The fjord felt wrong, too still, too watchful. Yet Joran's voice carried command, and none dared defy him. Axes bit into ice, sparks flying. Time passed not too swiftly, sweat freezing on brows until the glacier cracked. Some kind of artifact slid free. A disk, golden yet pale, runes writhing like living things. Leaf trembled. It speaks. I hear words in the wind. Joran seized it, holding it high. Then listen well. The gods speak only to the worthy. The air grew colder. Silence deepened. Somewhere within the glacier, a rumble stirred. Herrick spat. We've broken something that should have stayed untouched. Joran grinned. No, we have broken fate itself. The artifact pulsed brighter, answering his claim, and the ice groaned like a waking beast. Night fell heavy. The men huddled around a feeble fire. The artifact lay wrapped at Joran's side, yet its light leaked through, casting shadows that danced across the snow. Leaf whispered, staring at the wrapped object. It pulses like a heartbeat. The wind rose, carrying a resonance that rattled bone and soul. cracks spider-webbed across the glacier, blowing faintly. From the fissures, shadows moved. Then it emerged. A figure stepped forth, tall, skeletal, cloaked in frost. Its body was carved from ice and bone, eyes burning like embers trapped in frozen glass. Each step cracked the earth beneath. The creature shrieked, a sound that split the night, piercing marrow. The fire guttered out, leaving only the artifact's glow. You fools! Herrick staggered back. We broke its prison. Joran gripped his sword, defiance blazing. Then we'll forge a saga from its bones. The beast lunged, faster than mortal sight. Shields splintered, men hurled into snow. Its claws raked the earth, leaving trails of frost that burned like fire. Leaf screamed, clutching the artifact. The runes fly, red, light driving the creature back for a heartbeat. But its ember eyes fixed on the disk, hunger burning. Leaf realized then it did not hunt them, it hunted the artifact, and the end. Fight had only just begun. The forest groaned as the creature pressed closer, its ember eyes burning through the storm. Trees cracked under its weight, shadows stretched long and skeletal across the snow. Leaf stumbled, clutching the artifact. Each pulse drained him as though the disk drank his strength. His breath came ragged, legs trembling. Drop it, Herrick snarled. Throw it back before it kills us all. Geron's voice cut through the blizzard, iron and unyielding. No, this is ours. The gods sent us here. Do you think they would test us with storms and monsters only to have us crawl away empty-handed? Bjorn, the oldest of them all, spat blood into the snow. The gods test us, but not all who are tested survive. The creature oak through the tree line, vast and skeletal, frost clinging to its bones. Its shriek split the night, shaking the ground. The men faltered, shields trembling. Leaf cried out, "It wants the disk, not us." But Joran seized him by the collar, dragging him upright. "Silence, we are Norsemen. We claim what is forbidden." Herrick's voice was low, bitter, almost swallowed by the wind. "And we die for it." The men pressed on through the frozen pines. Breath steamed like smoke from dying fires. Boots sank into snow that seemed to clutch at their ankles. Behind them, the creature's shriek tore. He threw the night, not merely sound, but a vibration that rattled teeth and made marrow ache. Branches shivered as if recoiling. It lunged from the shadows, claws gouging snow and ice. The men scattered, shields raised, axes flashing, but frost clung to their skin where its touch grazed them, burning like acid. "Shield wall," Joran roared. "Stand, sons of the north." They locked shields, trembling but defiant. The beast slammed into them, splintering wood, hurling men aside like dolls. Bjorn fell, his scream strangled as frost crawled over him, sealing his eyes open in a mask of terror. Leaf raised the artifact. The runes flared, casting a light so harsh it seemed to peel shadows from the trees. The creature recoiled, shrieking, ember eyes roaring to slits for a heartbeat. Silence. Then Joran stepped forward, sword raised. "It fears the disk. With this, we can command it." But Leaf saw the truth in its gaze, hunger, not fear. The artifact was meat to it. The forest twisted around them, no refuge at all. The warriors pressed deeper, but the shrieks followed, splitting the night, rattling their bones. Snow fell thicker, muffling their cries. Yet the beast's ember eyes burned through the storm like coals in a corpse's skull. It struck again, Bjorn raised his shield, but the blow shattered it like brittle bone. Frost crawled up his arm, veins blackening, flesh cracking. Within moments he was a statue, his mouth frozen mid-scream. Bjorn, Leaf cried. Back. Joran dragged him away. He is gone. Axes flashed, spears thrust, but each strike splintered against flesh that was more ice than body. Harek's axe cleaved deep, thinking he had beaten the creature, only for the weapon to be swallowed whole. Frost sealing it in place, the thing bellowed, twisting furiously. Harek lost his grip on the handle and was hurled aside. Blood steamed in the snow. Leaf clutched the artifact. The runes writhed, glowing brighter as he spoke the carved words. His voice trembled, yet the air bent, heavy with a pressure that made ears bleed. He screamed in agony. They burn when I speak them. Speak, boy, Joran thundered. Speak until your tongue is ash. The creature faltered, a cry of rage breaking into a guttural roar. For the first time it staggered back, clawing at the light as if its icy flesh was flayed. Hope flickered, but the disk grew heavier, its glow searing Leaf's palms, blistering skin. He screamed, dropping the artifact into the snow. He light guttered. The monster surged forward, jaws opening wider than a man's chest, breath reeking of rot and frozen graves. The Norsemen scattered, blooded and broken. Bjorn was gone. Harek gasped, and the snow, slow to get up. The hunger of the creature was unrelenting, and the fjord had claimed its first blood. The survivors staggered on, breath ragged, bodies broken. Harek limped, blood soaking his furs. Leaf carried the artifact, though it scorched his hands with every pulse. Each beat like a heart not his own. They collapsed in a clearing, fire flickering weakly against the cold. The disk lay between Joran and Leaf, wrapped in cloth, yet its glow seeped through, painting their faces in corpse light. Harek spat. We should have left it. Bjorn's blood stains the ground. Because of that cursed thing, Joran's eyes gleam feverish. He leaned closer to the wrapped, cursed thing, voice low, reverent. No, Bjorn's blood was the price of greatness. This disk is no curse, but a gift. It bends the creature. It bends the world. Leaf shivered. It bends you, chieftain. Your eyes burn like its runes. Joran laughed, harsh and echoing through the trees. Then let them burn. With this I will be more than a chieftain. I will be a god. The men exchanged uneasy glances. Even Harek, hardened by years of raids, felt a chill deeper than the winter air. That night Joran sat apart from the others, the artifact in his lap. He traced the runes with shaking fingers, whispering words none could understand. The disk pulsed brighter, its glow searing the snow, its hum swelling until it sounded like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Leaf stirred in his sleep, the whispers crawling through his dreams. They were not Joran's voice alone. The artifact also spoke. Its words slithered like serpents, promising power, conquest without end, immortality without mercy. He woke with a cry, sweat freezing on his skin. It speaks. He gasped, jabbing a pointed finger at Joran. It speaks to him. Harek's face was grim. And soon it will own him. From the forest came a shriek, distant yet piercing, the sound of hunger without rest. The men stiffened, clutching their weapons. Joran rose, holding the artifact high. His eyes blazed with unnatural height. Let it come with this. I command the storm, the beast, the gods themselves. The disk pulsed brighter than fire. The glacier groaned in answer. The curse had taken root. The fjord lay in silence, broken only by the crackle of their meager fire. The men huddled close, their numbers dwindled, their spirits frayed. The artifact glowed faintly in Geron's lap, painting his face. In ghostly pallor, his eyes burned with feverish devotion. Herrick watched him from across the fire, jaw tight. Each pulse of the disk seemed to sink deeper into Geron's soul. The chieftain no longer spoke of kin or glory in battle. He spoke only of conquest, of bending gods to his will. Leaf whispered and shook uncontrollably. "It's changing him." Ek growled, "It has already changed him. If we do not act, it will claim us all." That night, while the others slept, Herrick crept toward Jorund. The artifact lay beside the chieftain, glowing fire, and lie through its cloth. Herrick reached for it, breath shallow, his hand just about touching it. Geron's eyes snapped open. "Traitor," he hissed, rising within a sudden surge. His sword flashed in the firelight. Herrick staggered back, short sword already in hand. "Better a traitor than losing my damn soul." "That thing will kill us all." Jorn advanced, fury blazing. "Better a tyrant than a coward. You would throw away the god's gift. You would spit on fate." Steel rang against steel, sparks flying. The men woke to chaos. Leaf cried out, rushing between them, "Stop, you'll kill each other." But the forest answered with an unnatural scream from the creature, drawn by the artifact's glow. Trees splintered as it descended upon the weary Norsemen. Ember eyes fixed on the disk, the men scattered, terror choking their throats. The beast tore through the clearing, hurling warriors aside. Frost burned the ground where it stepped. Jorund and Herrick fought on, their duel swallowed by the creature's fury. Leaf seized the artifact, its runes blazing in his hands. He shouted the carved words, his voice breaking, yet the air itself trembled. The Cretu re-faltered, shrieking, clawing at the light, but unable to reach it. Leaf screamed, dropping the artifact into the snow once more, unable to hold on to it because of the searing heat. Jorund lunged for it, snatching the disc up, eyes wild. "Mine," he roared. "It is mine." The ice monster shrieked, hunger unrelenting. The fjord drowned in blood and betrayal. Snow fell in blinding sheets. The wind howled like a chorus of the dead, and the glacier loomed ahead, vast, pale, eternal. The men of Stormfang staggered toward it, broken in number, hollow in spirit. Behind them the creature raged, ember eyes burning through the storm. Each step cracked the earth, each breath froze the air. Jorund raised the artifact high, runes blazing. His voice thundered above the gale. "Shield wall, Norsemen, stand. Tonight we carve our saga." In ice the survivors locked shields, trembling but defiant, their axes and swords at the ready. But the beast struck with a fury known he could match. Those who were left to fight were hurled into the snow, blood staining the white ground beneath them crimson. Leaf picked up the artifact from where Jorund dropped it, clutching it tightly. Desperate, the runes flared, casting blinding light. The creature faltered, clawing at the glow. "Speak the words," Jorund roared. "The runes obey us." Leaf shouted, ice trembling. The air bent, the glacier shook, and the thing of ice staggered back, rage escaping its icy lips. With each use, the artifact grew heavier and heavier, its glow searing his flesh once more. His hands no thing more than cooked meat. Leaf cried out, dropping it to the snowy earth. Jorund lunged, possessing the disk once more, a crazed look in his eyes. The creature surged forward, claws raking the air, eyes fixed on the disk, emanating from his hands and his chieftain's roar of fury. With all his strength, he hurled the cursed thing into the glacier's heart. The runes blazed brighter than fire. The glacier cracked, the sound booming across the fjord. The creature cried out in agony, clawing at the air, its body dissolving into shards of ice. The fjord-s hook, the storm roared, and then silence. The beast was gone. The men collapsed where they stood, blooded and broken. Joran lay in the snow, ice seething with rage. You stole my glory, boy. One day I'll take it back. Leaf stared at the glacier, now still. If glory means chains, I want none of it. The fjord lay silent once more, yet deep beneath the ice, something stirred. What was left of the men of Stormfang staggered across the snow, spirits hollow, blood staining their leathers and furs. The echoes of the creature's wails haunted their ears. Leaf led them, hands all but useless from the artifact's glow. His eyes were heavy with exhaustion, yet sharpened by terror. The innocence of youth burned away. Behind him, Joran limped, his gaze fixed on the glacier. His voice rasped, fevered. You stole my glory, boy. One day I'll take it back, saying it over and over again. You stole my glory, boy. One day I'll take it back. The sound of a chieftain gone mad. Leaf did not answer. He stared ahead, toward the longship waiting on the shore. The sea was calm now, mocking their suffering. Herrick stumbled beside him, coughing. Blood, no treasure is worth this curse. We should have buried it again. Let the ice keep its secrets. Leaf's voice was low, steady. We did, and yet I fear, it is not enough. They reached the ship. What little strength they had left. The small band pushed Stormfang into the water and dragged themselves aboard. The oars dipped in, carrying them away from the fjord. The glacier reached, head pale and silent. But as the wind filled their sails, the men felt it, a vibration beneath the sea, a whisper in the storm. The artifact was gone, sealed once more, yet the curse lay. And Gerd, Leaf stared back at the glacier, heart heavy. Deep beneath the ice, another shadow waited. Story 6, Lost and Found. Spending the New Year's in Manhattan seems like a magical time, right? Not. If you're a cabbie, oh, the insanity of full contact, traffic, random road closures, and dealing with drunk and horny riders messing up my upholstery. With the whole town hungover, and at the countdown, Tribeca was deserted. I already turned off my cab's roof light and decided to stick solely to big-ticket Uber. Lyft rides, since ushering sloshed tourists to Times Square wasn't really worth my effort. I was focused on peacefully welcoming the new year, scribbling my resolutions on the back of my logbook. The clock read 11:41 p.m., while idling my lime green Ford Escape in the middle of Red Street. I began to doze off with Reset by Outkast playing in the background. I was woken abruptly by 3 steady knocks by the rear passenger door. Knock, knock, knock. With fuzzied eyes I checked the mirrors, yet no one was there. The digital clock by the center console blinked 12:05 a.m. Damn, I slept through another countdown. My focus shifted back to the knocking. I swiveled my head towards the back of the car. I only saw the brownstone buildings illuminated by the dim street lights and manhole covers. With steam bellowing out of them, there was not a soul in sight. It must have been some punk's doing, the old ding-dong ditch, so I thought, still not taking chances. I immediately locked all doors, shifted the car into drive, and moved further up to Greenwich Street corner. I wasn't about to get carjacked on the first day of the year, goddammit. The CD loop back to the beginning, and it started with the intro, which always made me chuckle. Speaker box asterisk, grunt asterisk, turn me up, don't turn me down. As Andre 3000 started revving up in the first song, the rear door lever was tugged multiple times to gain entry. Clunk dot squeak dot clunk dot squeak dot clunk dot squeak. I irritatingly turned around to emptiness. Again dot dot dot. Enough is enough. Working the night shifts in the boroughs, I've dealt with hairy situations before. Cops are never helpful, so it's best to deal with potential threats myself. I turned the ignition off and the hazard lights on, then unlocked the doors. My trusty-ass baton was flicked to full extension with a satisfying metallic clink. I always pictured myself as a Jedi doing that dot dot. From the front of the car, I flanked around to the sidewalk. Cautiously, I went to the rear passenger's side and checked by the door. All I saw was my own frantic white breaths in the frigid night. Suddenly, I spotted lights illuminating from the floor of the back seat with a series of fled text notifications. Oh, what now? I yanked the door open to an empty seating area and glanced towards the floor mat. There was a half-exposed cell phone under the seat. Ooh, great. I guess one of the previous passengers dropped this old iPhone. The protocol was to attempt contact by dialing the first number and bring it back to my garage in LIC, where the passenger could retrieve it themselves. I have to file a report, which then gets relayed to the city's 311 non-emergency service. A real pain in the ass. Not the start of the year I hoped for. Getting back to my seat, I was just about to radio and about the lost phone when its busted screen illuminated. Hey, sorry to bother you. Can I ask you a favor? Yeah. You want your phone back? I annoyingly decided to call the person that was texting dot asterisk unavailable asterisk. Tried again, pressing the sender's contact number asterisk unavailable asterisk. As I tinkered with the phone, the notification chimed again, but as it did, my taxi completely lost all power. You gotta be fucking kidding me right now. I sighed heavily, shaking my head in disbelief. I stared at the coffee stain on the ceiling right above, while regretting my career decisions and hating life. I began to text back. Sorry, no can do. There are protocols for these things. And that I am not it single quotes as really important. A woman's voice mumbled from the back seat. UAHHHHH. What the fuck? How how when? What? I had an impossible time trying to speak, since my heart practically jumped upwards to my esophagus. Trembling, I gathered the courage to scope the rear-view mirror. As my eyes adjusted to the dark interior of the cab, I could make out a human-like Silhouette sitting in the back seat. I tried to rationalize as much as I could. This must be some New Year prank by the union guys, right? Well, you all got me good, I need to get to Long Island. You won't have to work the rest of the night, double quotes, omegoed it speaks. I went into full Blair Witch mode with panicked tears and snot. I tried to yank Copen T. He door, but the locks reactivated on their own. It single quotes us and counts it. Lloyd Harbor, I wasn't listening. I was thrashing around by the driver's side door and then shifting to the passenger side. In futile attempts to escape, I screamed out every prayer I knew in the process. I will pay. I just need to get there before sunrise. I just want to go home, I gasped. Shit my luck. So I've got some Long Island Dracula that won't let me go. Watoy. Then the onboard pass system typed out a transaction for $700. My jaw left wide open in astonishment, but remained trembling. In fear, used the home button on my phone's GPS. Though I was scared shitless, I begrudgingly put the car into gear. This was an offer I wouldn't get to refuse. I mean, I didn't know what she was capable of. So, Long Island it was. Perhaps this would be my very last ride. To avoid gridlock, I zigzagged to Center Street and onto Brooklyn Bridge. I normally wool. Make an icebreaker comment about, oh, look at the view from the bridge and go into my NYC history spiel. But this phantom rider didn't seem like a small talker. I tried to pee. Eek behind. But I was petrified that I would make eye contact. The weird thing was, in the confines of the shadows, I could somewhat see a human figure, but when street lights shined into the interior, the seat would be empty. I was pretty convinced I was being carjacked by a ghost or a vampire. Double quotes. Do you always stare at your passengers this much? I flinched and white-knuckled the steering wheel. My entire body had goosebumps and cold sweats. I've been made. Am I going to die in this funky-ass car? In a last-ditch effort to deflect, I decided to offer some music to the passenger. Just wondering, you know, if you'd want to hear some music for the DDDDDDR drive, that TH. That's all. HHA, haha, double quotes. After a brief pause, it was almost a whisper. La. If you have it, double quotes. A deep exhale of relief, la soul. That I can do. If there's anything keeping me from losing my damn mind, even before this fiasco, was my music. The only thing good about these older Ford Taxis was that they still had CD stereos. While I drove on the BQE through downtown Brooklyn, I simultaneously opened my weathered CD collection and took out Boo Balloon Mind State. Before the curve at the end of the Navy Yard, I inserted the disc and pressed play. It might blow up, but it won't go pop. Stickabush. Stickabush. As the intro transitioned to the first song, I was finally able to relax a bit and not dread being beheaded from behind. The way I always gauged trustworthy humans was by their taste in music and how they eated animals. The jury was still out on this particular passenger. Her raggedy S iPhone 4, with the crack screen indicated to veer right towards Long Island bound for 195. We crossed over the Kosciuszko Bridge, overlooking the skyscrapers and the Calvary Cemetery. I quietly prayed that those graveyards weren't some foreshadowing of this trip. Even at such an ungodly hour, the LA Expressway had traffic mainly because there are so many delivery trucks going 20 miles under the speed limit, or the meatheads aggressively driving their BMWs and crashing rubber. Necking is a pastime sport here. By the fourth song of the album, we were still in Flushing. Makio Parker on the saxophone, and the groove-filled solo had me tapping the steering wheel. I briefly checked behind me, and would you know it, the shadow passenger was bobbing her head in rhythm. Okay, comma, dot, 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 all right, dot, dot, dot. Those hostage negotiators always talked about finding mutual grounds with captors, I think. Being a De La fan, she must be familiar with the song after Macheo's track, which is the best song on Balloon Mind State. I've recite it perpetually in my youth and know it by heart. I decided to take a gamble, just maybe, if I was able to win over this hip-hop loving ghoul with my comically articulate bilingual rap-along, maybe I wouldn't become a blood sacrifice afterwards. Yup, dot, dot, here goes do or die carpool karaoke. The song was about to start. Could the drummer have some y'all? Could the drummer have some more? The drummer ain't had none in a long time. Come on, drummer. With killer beats, the short song began with 3 Japanese MCs rapping about being recognized for their talents and being invited to NY to collab with De La. They also poetically rhymed about their long flight over from Japan, 13 hours, and how they diligently got to the recording studio at the PM, but the DL crew were 5 hours late. They were a no at first, but as soon as they came in all wassop, it was all good. Yes, yo, we don't stop, dot, 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 Kanamon. To Minazan, Ikagare show, I did the old bit with all my heart. Initially, there was dead silence from the back. Then a big hearty giggle erupted from the shadows, the headlights, and the speedometer fleet. Carried with her bellowing laughter, I flinched and veered slightly into the halve lane. Hey ha ha, oh my. I never imagined to hear that song reenacted before. Hilarious. A sense of relief washed over. She wasn't going to kill me. Most likely, whatever the odds, I'll take it. Say, I'm hungry. Could you stop by Bagel Boss? It's along the way. Also, Broadway Diner, too. Their rainbow cookie milkshake is to die for. Hungry, is she going to have appetizers before? You know, my sphincter tightened as I began catastrophizing again on 101 ways I may die. Despite my instincts screaming, I got off on exit 41 towards Hicksville, where both establishments serve late-night meals, dot, dot, dot. Just tell them you are here for Fiona's order. I was directed from the passenger's seat. When I did as instructed at both locations, the staff stared alarmingly, as if I spoke a name I shouldn't have. After an intense discussion amongst themselves, Fiona's request was completed. With a perturbed expression, they handed me the feast. Both places shut their gates right afterwards. Once returning to my car, I was instructed to open the packages. The cab smelled like a proper in my deli with lox onions, toasted bialys, cream cheese, chocolate, and vanilla. Dot, dot, oh, how I missed these, dot, dot, double quotes. I waited for her to snatch them from me, but she simply wanted to smell them from the back seat. WTF, all this deliciousness, only for aromatherapy. Hey, there for you. These were my favorites when I was able to sneak out. Not gonna lie, I'm a die-hard fan of Cassara's Bagel Sandbeely's in the Les, but Fiona's order was spot on. The scrumptious rainbow cookie milkshake was a culinary Jenga tower I kept cursing as pieces of cool. Keys and sprinkles cluster bomb my coat and my seat. I heard a rejoicing snicker from the back seat, and the headlights pulsed in unison with her laughter. That was still jarring, and yet not as terrifying as earlier. Maybe whatever type of paranormal entity my client was, she wasn't malignant. I still had so many questions. Though ... It's time to go. It's almost 4. The Scooby Snack side quest was unexpected. I decided to thank the arcane passenger for her graciousness, and also offered more music from my CD library. After the Tribe Called Quest album was chosen by the lady, we resumed our journey, considering how ludicrously wealthy the surrounding neighborhoods were. Their roads were so poorly lit. Once we got through the serpentine downhill, the fog made it impossible to see around Cold Spring Harbor. It looked like something straight out of Sleepy Hollow. Apropos, if you ask me, finally arriving at West Neck Road, there was a police station. I considered making a break for it, but something told me that betraying Fiona wouldn't go well. I proceeded to follow the direction from the beat-up phone. After passing the local beach, there was Oyster Bay on the left, and in the distance, Connecticut. It was nearly dawn, and the skies turned from pitch black to grayish blue. I was bewildered by the towering utility pole alongside the road with massive piles of sticks on top. In the low light, they looked like giant tree monsters from the poltergeist. Those are ospreys' nests. They migrate to the south and will be back around March. Must be nice to be free. I sensed great sadness in the way she said it. I wanted to ask more, but the final destination was just around the corner. I also shouldn't press my luck. The entrance to Campsite was very unassuming, and at 5:45 a.m. the gates were closed. I was anticipating for Fiona to turn into a bat and leave the car, or just ghost me. Literally, instead, she gave me further instructions. Double quotes, ... not here. Keep going straight, and drive onto Service Drive North. The sun is coming up, so hurry. I took a few deep breaths, and put the car into gear with "Oh My God" blaring on the stereo. I looked to the rear view mirror, to the dark silhouette. Buckle up, Fiona. We are gonna get you home, Beth, or this song is over. The AWD hybrid with all 155 horsepower zoomed through the narrow roads of the estate, with endless fields, horse stables, and gardens scattered throughout the entire property. I assumed we would be heading to the abandoned mansion that towered everything else. We beelined towards it. Then suddenly, from the back, ... no, not that place. That is not my home. Turn here, hurry, her raised voice rattled. We looped around the equestrian center, and a few of the curious horses nodded. We then got onto a secluded dirt road, with a hand-painted sign labeled Fisherman's Drive. I looked at the time, and the gray skies gradually became brighter. I gunned the accelerator, but the car whimpered in protest. It was Fiona again. ... F.A. Miley of deer in the area. Go slower. It's okay. We'll make it. I did as she asked. Not that I had a choice. The isolated woodlands had Camp Crystal Lake vibes. It was bumpy, creepy, and awful visibility. Nothing about this drive was normal, yet I no longer felt terrified of whatever was on the final point of our journey. I felt a sense of duty to see this through. I drove us slow, right through the forest trail. Sunrise crept closer. The surroundings became more visible by the minute. As it did on my left, I noticed a weathered bench along with a blue-colored memorial shrine, its dead flowers, Zen stack of stones, and a faded CD Walkman. Right when I was about to pass the area, my car completely cut out. I looked in the rear mirror, and I could have sworn I saw a smiling young woman. When I turned around, however, the seat was completely empty. The weathered phone that provided directions chimed again, and there were a few lines of messages. Thanks for getting me home. Thanks for finding Emmy. This was the most alive I felt in a long time. All the despair, all the what-ifs, all of it dissipated. I sat there in relief with my forehead resting on the sweat-stained steering wheel. Fiona was in her resting place. Once I got the cab back in gear, I attempted to restart the engine, and the trusty cylinder roared back to life. I looked around to see if I could reverse and head out of the forest, but the trail was just too narrow for that. The phone pinged again. There's a beach and par. King lot ahead. You can U-turn there or stay for the sunrise. It's so worth it. Well, I didn't think I was in danger anymore. It was going to be the first sunrise of 2024. It felt like a good omen. So I took Fiona's suggestion. The New Year's sun rose high above the bluffs and illuminated everything in honey gold. It truly was magnificent. On the way back, I left her phone next to the wall. Came in, I then prayed for her to rest in peace. It has been a busy year since, but I still get reminded about that crazy day, especially when I look at a mirror. I would flinch, thinking I saw something or someone uninvited again. Tonight is New Year's Eve. I'm on Fulton Street in the financial district, and it's dead quiet. Everyone's in Midtown now. I prefer it that way. Now let me work on my resolutions while I listen to some Kendrick La. Knock, knock, knock. Story 7. Fashionable Judgment. Mr. King sat back in his recliner, looking at the oil lamp that was burning on the coffee table in front of him, on which his feet rested. The walls swirled around him, and shadows in the corner of his eye flickered and twitched. He shifted in his recliner, clutching his stomach as another wave of nausea and subsequent bitterness in the back of his throat hit him, and he glanced down at the empty mug on his table, the liquid that was previously inside of it being responsible for his misery. He looked over at the spiky brown pods of the datura flower on the table in the kitchen. They were cracked in half, and a few seeds were strewn and across the table, though most of them laid in a warm mush at the bottom of the pot in the kitchen. He sighed as he looked at them, before his eyes drifted to the clock on the wall as it hit 12. It promptly began emitting its hourly chimes, though their sound was different this time. They were loud, screeching, and deafening, emitting a sound akin to that of someone bashing pots and hands wildly together. He groaned and covered his ears, the sound causing another wave of nausea to hit him, each chime making the feeling worse and worse. He closed his eyes and covered his ear, as small explosions and pulses of sickening pastel colors filled his vision. Just when he was about to give in and allow the TV dinner he had eaten to introduce itself to the carpeting below. The chimes halted. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the clock carefully, seeing that the minute hand was now 1 minute past 12. 5 knocks in quick succession echoed throughout the living room, leading him to get up and approach the door. The sharp cold of the brass knob hazily radiated through his hand as he twisted it until it refused to move. He pushed the door open and stepped inside of his living room, seeing Mrs. King standing in front of him, her arms crossed against her chest, and her face harboring a frown and a pair of furrowed eyebrows. The moment he clicked the door shut behind him, Mrs. King spoke. Her words were sharp and loud, containing plenty of obscenities among them. Mr. King growled at her, the words of his wife landing on his ear's eye, in much the same manner as an old television with bad connection. He looked at the walls, which were covered in a layer of blur and fuzziness. He grumbled and went to snub his wife again, headed towards the recliner, his bloodshot eyes already aiming at the remote. Mrs. King followed him this time. She opened her mouth and now spoke even louder and harsher words. She raised her finger and pointed it at her husband, her cheeks beginning to flush, and the muscles in her neck stretching taut against the skin as her mouth wildly moved. Her other hand moved erratically, swinging up and down furiously with each pause she made in her words, her finger jabbing at her husband. Mr. King whipped around, his face refusing to flinch. Even the harshest of criticisms or the loudest of profanities, all the words a melting smoothie of noises, he opened his own mouth and began speaking his own words. He had no clue of the words he was speaking. He only cared about their volume, which he aimed to make higher than that of his wife, who was recoiling at his breath. But something caught Mr. King's eye. A shadow flickered in the hazy corner of his vision, and he looked over to it to see a boy hurrying down the stairs, his face harboring a twisted frown and panic eyes, his cheeks red and dripping tears. Mrs. King looked towards the boy as well. Junior opened his own mouth. His words were different from those exchanged between Mr. and Mrs. King. His own voice quivered in its high pitch, and he didn't point a finger or wildly wave his hand around. Like Mrs. King, instead, one of his hands softly scratched his neck, while the other laid at his side as he shifted left and right. His ankles were crossed, his feet mechanically and sporadically shifting. Along with his swaying, Mrs. King closed her mouth at once and gave a glare towards Mr. King. Her eyebrows relaxed and her frown eased from one of explicit upset to that of maternal concern. GSL. Holly approached Junior, though Junior didn't look at her face for long before his expression twisted to display more upset, and his eyes locked onto Mr. King. Mr. King was unbuckling his belt, and with haste, Mrs. King turned to see what Junior saw, and once she did, she immediately approached her husband and spread her arms wide. Her words quickly stirred up again, even louder and sharper than what had come out only a minute before. Mr. King grumbled and moved forwards in spite of the noise, laying a hand on his wife's shoulder to shove her aside, his belt in the other. As he did, though, he felt a sudden explosion of pain in his left cheek, catching a glimpse of his wife's hand swinging through the air. He recoiled a few steps backwards, feeling a sudden intense sense at iron within his head. His brain suddenly felt as if it was boiling inside of his skull. and he quickly moved forwards a step as his hand curled into a fist. But just as quickly as he started, he stopped. Paid. His eyes caught a glint of something. The polished metal frame of the hunting rifle that sat above the fireplace mantel. He hastily approached the firearm, the living room blurring as he moved towards it. He grabbed it down from the mantel, the cold of the metal radiating through his hands as he gripped the rifle. Mrs. King's words now suddenly became frantic and high-pitched, and she began to back away from her husband as she observed him marching towards the closet. Mr. King heard small footsteps running amain up the stairs. His hands worked quickly, grabbing the box of rifle cartridges. The sound of metal gliding against metal produced as his hands transferred all 5 cartridges into the firearm he held. He actioned the lever, paused to look at his old uniform. "I am from Vietnam," and then stormed back into his living room, seeing Mrs. King cowering in the corner. He took a deep breath as he aimed the rifle towards the figure in the corner, the strange thing cowering in an odd manner as it crossed the 2 long appendages attached to its upper body over its head. With a slow exhale, he pulled the trigger. His ears rung as he levered the action. A second time, the figure before him jolting and moving in a mechanical manner, red fluid emitting from where his shot had landed. His ears rang again, the walls around the figure pulsating alone. Gee, with the beat of his heart, it moved less now. More red fluid poured. It wasn't enough. Another jolt against his shoulder, the boom ripping through his head, and the walls leaking impossible colors from their corners for a short moment. Figure lay still. He concludes his work. Up the stairs to the second figure, door locked, steel-tipped boot slamming against it. Door open, second figure, junior with its hands up, aimed for the head. One final boom into the night, the walls pulsating as they had in Vietnam. After his task was complete, he deliberately walked downstairs, set the hunting rifle down against the counter, and slowed his breathing, looking at what he had done. He had stolen the lives of his own flesh and blood. He sighed as he looked at the lifeless body of Mrs. King, covered in blood. He shook his head and walked towards the front door. His hand gripped the cold brass knob and twisted it, then pulled the door open. His eyes looked up to face whatever was responsible for the knocking, and standing in front of him, with pale skin and inky blackness replacing the eye sockets, was the form of Mrs. King, standing upright, yet still slumped over, her neck in that same crooked position it was in after he fired the 3rd cartridge. He invited her in. His judge from beyond the veil had come to conduct the trial. He watched her slowly limp her way into the living room, towards the rifle lying on the coffee table, along with the lone cartridge. She slowly raised her finger, pointing at it curiously. Mr. King quickly understood what she was asking. "I thought about it, but I eventually decided against it. ... It would be pathetic." She nodded her head in understanding, before resuming her awkward gait towards the wall to the left of the hallway. It had a lone frame sitting only a foot to the left of the hallway, and in that frame was Mr. King's old police badge. She pointed at it slowly and gave him that same curious look. "The law? Nah. I don't see the point in rotting in some concrete grave only to be fried like a lab rat in some old chair after 20 years. What does it even matter? And the outcome will be the same no matter what lawyer I get. Senseless how they don't bother to bring you to the gallows, right? after the mallet strikes nowadays. Hut. The angel nodded her head and began walking towards him. He backed up and sat on the couch as the world around him suddenly became huge, and he became minuscule, the walls becoming massive, towering structures. As she drew closer, the cabin glared down at him along with the angel as she became a puppeteer that manipulated the world around her. Growing along with the cabin, he began to quiver, his heart now beating fast and hard. He crawled behind the couch and curled up into a ball, trying to hide from the angel as her gait moved her forwards. Cowering and closing his eyes tightly, eventually, he felt the angel's cold hand resting on his shoulder, the sensation spreading throughout his body and traveling, sharp and merciless, down his spine. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. He looked up to see that the angel was gone, and the cabin had returned to size, though still spinning and warping. He stood up as the cold slowly left his body, looking around the room, and, seeing it was still, he sat back in the recliner and sighed, taking a deep breath. Then the shadows moved, but they didn't flicker or stutter like they usually did. Instead, they became fuzzy, like the static from a television set. He watched as the shadows broke apart into individual spiders, which began crawling across the room. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine as he watched them, and he quickly hurried over and flipped on the light switch. The lights did nothing to remove the spiders from the room, which dispersed from the corners they previously inhabited, now crawling around the living room. The light also attracted the locusts, which began to swarm the cabin, quickly beginning to eat away at the wood, desperately trying to get inside. He fled upstairs and into his bedroom, slamming the door shut behind him as he turned the lights on and curled up into a ball on his bed. The room he had escaped to didn't provide adequate protection for very long. In due time, he began to hear the locusts swarming angrily downstairs, and he peeked open his eyes to see the spiders crawling in through the gap between the door and the carpet beneath it. His breathing quickened as he tossed himself out of bed and grabbed a broom from the closet, taking it in his hands and swinging it amain at the spiders which rapidly surrounded his feet. Alas, the swinging of the broom did nothing in the order of stopping his minuscule tormentors. The locusts began entering the room as they turned the wood of the door to paste. He backed away as they began to slowly spill through the holes they were making, and the spiders made their way up his legs. He squirmed in terror as the insects swarmed him and looked toward the bedroom window. As they began to tear his legs apart, he realized he had no other option. In an instant, he ran towards the window and threw himself towards it, closing his eyes and holding his arms in front of his head. He felt several sharp pains on his arms and body as the sound of shattering glass echoed through the air. He yelped as he entered free fall, but quickly hit the ground. A painful thud shooting through his right arm. He groaned in pain as he opened his eyes to see a faint trickle of blood seeping into the snow beneath him. He hauled himself up off of the ground and proceeded to hobble around his home and to whatever was left of the front door after the locusts had destroyed it. However, upon reaching the door, he saw that it was completely intact, along with the walls of the house. Despite the locusts, he looked at himself and realized there wasn't a single spider or locust on him either. As he slowly looked up, he saw her standing in the window of the kitchen. The angel was here again. He quickly barged into his own home and ran into the kitchen to see her, not even bothering to close the door behind him. But the moment he turned right after entering his home to face the kitchen and look inside, she was gone. His right hand curled into a fist, in which he used to thump the wall. A painful shock pierced through his right arm and caused him to grimace in pain. As he winced, he noticed that the floor beneath him was now grass. He heard the sounds of distant gunshots. He looked up, now being in a small hut deep within the forest. He saw his standard issue rifle with a bayonet attached to it. As he picked it up, he heard the screaming of a Viet Cong soldier outside, and he turned to the open door of the hut to see the soldier rushing towards it. In an instant, he shot the enemy soldier twice and rushed outside of the hut. He drew his rifle up as he approached the VC, and as quickly as he had approached, drove it down with all his might. He looked down at the man he had just killed, only to see the snow-covered earth staring right back at him. He huffed in anger, the hunting flesh shaking in his hands as he hoisted it out of the earth and turned around, and once again saw the angel that had tricked him twice now standing in his living room. He stormed into the living room, looking at the coffee table and seeing the lone rifle cartridge on it. He made no delay in chambering it into the rifle and pointing it right at the angel. He took a deep breath, aimed square for her chest, and pulled the trigger, only to feel a shooting pain down the right side of his face and chest. Wailing as he dropped the rifle, stumbled back, and crashed into the coffee table. He looked down at his chest to see it was now bleeding profusely, pieces of metal lodged in it. He looked over at the rifle he had just dropped, the back end of it torn to shreds. He suddenly jolted up as he felt a great heat on his back, and quickly turned around to notice the oil lamp had been knocked over by his fall, the fire spreading on the carpeting, engulfing the sofa and recliner. He quickly got up, groaning at the pain in his right side as he hobbled and limped out of the front door. He walked aimlessly into the woods, beginning to shiver as the cold hit hard, with him only wearing a tank top, blue jeans, and a pair of socks. He was no match for the January cold. His right leg gave out as he approached the tree line, followed by his left. He slowly dragged himself through the snow, shivering as the cold sharply dug into his body with the ferocity of 1,000 razor blades. The pain of the cold quickly faded as he lay down next to a fallen tree, resting his head against the log and watching his family home be consumed by flames. His body slowly lost all feeling, the world around him beginning to swirl as the night became colder and the moonlight dim. He felt the spirits in the air quickly and fearfully depart as something approached. He saw him, an odd man, approaching from the distance. The stranger wore a gray trench coat and a gray wide-brimmed hat. As the figure slowly approached, Mr. King felt his heart racing in spite of his body slowly failing from the cold. The man slowed his pace into a deliberate walk as Mr. King's eyes widened. The negativity he brought closer with every step, pungent, thick, and suffocating. The forces from beyond the veil had made their decision, and their final judgment was to sacrifice Mr. King to the figure. And as the strange man in gray knelt down next to Mr. King and reached his cold, gloved hand out to touch his face. He used the very last of his might and main to produce one final scream into the bitter air of the night.